Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Walter Wilson, and I am a principal with the Minority Business Consortium, along with my partner here, Reginald Swilley. And we'd like to thank everyone for being here today, and particularly our partners with BTA, Silicon Valley Leadership Group, Axion Opportunity Fund, and so many others that helped put this together. You know, this event today is important because we thought that there's a lot of small businesses, particularly minority and women-owned businesses, that have suffered and continue to suffer through COVID as a result of the pandemic. Excuse me. We found that roughly 1/3 of many of the businesses have gone out of business and will not come back, particularly restaurants, the minority-owned restaurants. I think Mary Huss is going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to take this opportunity first to introduce my business partner, Reginald Swilley, and let him say a few words, and then we're going to introduce our panelists.
Good morning, all. The Bay Area Business Diversity Forum was put together with VTA and Minority Business Consortium because we are really trying to bring access and support to many of the small businesses around the Bay Area. We don't want to ever hear again that we don't know where the small businesses are, and we don't want to ever hear again that the small businesses are not prepared for these major opportunities. We really do appreciate this program being put together to help bring support to them, financial support, economic understanding of where they can get that kind of help. The work that has been done all around the Bay Area with the Bay Area Diversity Business Forum is something that we hope that you can all latch onto and join us as we build a vibrant, small, diverse business community with access to the many of the contracts that's going on around much of the development in the Bay Area. And now we'll start with Walter Wilson introducing our panel. Go forward, Walter.
Okay, can we please list the panelists? Thank you.
First is Tara Lynn.
Yeah, so Tara Lynn Gray was appointed Small Business Advocate and Director of California Office of Small Business Advocate in March of this year. Prior to Tara's appointment, she served as CEO of the Fresno Metro Chamber of Commerce, and the Gray's experience and dedication to small business entrepreneurs and startups allows her to continue helping the small business community across the state. Her work also included work for the Chamber Foundation since 2017, and as CEO of Yadari Enterprise since 2004. Her business career has included working as a technology consultant, project management, network engineer, and telecommunications. She is active for social and political change, an active woman of faith, serves on boards and councils advocating for small businesses, including California Small Business Employer, Caltrans, California Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development, to name a few. Gray has earned a Master of Theology degree in Christian Studies from Grand Canyon University. I didn't know that. It's great. So Reginald's going to introduce our next speaker, Khanna.
Representative Khanna represents California 17th Congressional District, located.
I'm sorry. Can people turn off their mics, please? Go ahead.
Representative Khanna represents California 17th Congressional District, located in the heart of Silicon Valley, and is serving his third term. Representative Khanna sits on the House Committee on Agriculture, Armed Services, and Oversight and Reform. Additionally, Representative Khanna is the key deputy whip of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and a member of the Small Business Caucus. Representative Khanna was born in Philadelphia during the American Bicentennial to a middle-class family. Both of his parents immigrated to the United States in the 70s from India in search of opportunity for a better life for their children. And Representative Khanna's commitment to the service was inspired by his grandfather, who was active in Gandhi's independence movement and spent several years in jails for promoting human rights. Prior to serving in Congress, Representative Khanna taught economics at Stanford, law at Santa Clara University, and American Jurisprudence at San Francisco State University. He wrote the book, Entrepreneurial Nation, Why Manufacturing is Still the Key to America's Future. And he worked as a lawyer specializing in intellectual property law. Representative Khanna served as President Barack Obama's administration as Deputy Assistant Secretary at the United States Department of Commerce. In his free time, Representative Khanna enjoyed cheering for the Golden State Warriors, watching movies, and traveling. And his wife, Ritu, they call Fremont, California, their home. Next, Walter.
So, yeah, that's a great.
Our friend Dave.
I have the honor and privilege of introducing our friend, Senator Dave Cortese. So Dave was elected in November 2020 to represent State Senate District 15, which encompasses much of Santa Clara County in the heart of Silicon Valley. Along with his accomplished career as an attorney and business owner, the senator previously served on the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors for over a decade, with 4 years as board president of San Jose City Council for 8 years, including 2 years as vice mayor and a trustee for the Eastside Union High School District for 8 years. He grew up in San Jose as part of a family that has been active in civic, cultural, and business activities for generations. During his nearly 3 decades in public service, Dave has brought the community together to address and reduce homelessness, combat climate change, expand public transit options, reform the Santa Clara County's jail custody operations, and fight for the rights of immigrants and everyone. You know, when I was vice president for the San Jose NAACP back in the early 90s, Dave was an attorney and he did tons of pro bono work for the NAACP and for our community for people who couldn't afford it. And, you know, he was just a person who was just committed to social justice. And the work that he did on our behalf and on behalf of our community was stellar, because there were people who could not afford it. And Dave was always there to help those folks. And that's a personal experience I had with him, and that's how we became friends. So yeah, Dave Cortese. Next, Reginald.
And our moderator and our last panelist is Mary Huss. She's president and publisher of the San Francisco Business Times and Silicon Valley Journal, which are part of American City Business Journal, with 40 multimedia business journals serving local markets across the country. In her tenure, the Business Times has grown to be one of the largest and most profitable markets in the Business Journal portfolio. Mary began her career with Business Journal on the startup team that launched the St. Louis Business Journal and a number of other business journals in the early 1980s. Before coming to San Francisco, she was the publisher of the Philadelphia Business Journal. She has served as a reporter, editor, circulation director, advertising sales director, and publisher. Earlier in her career, she was a writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And before that, she was the founding editor of a successful weekly alternative newspaper in St. Louis, the Riverfront Times. Mary has a bachelor's of journalism degree from the University of Missouri at Columbia. Mary has just finished her term as board chair of the Bay Area Council. She is on the board of the Economic Institute, the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, and Silicon Valley Leadership Group. And she is on the executive board of the San Francisco State University Foundation and the board of the Commonwealth Club. She is a past board chair of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce and of PBWC. That's our last panelist. We hope you guys enjoy this conversation.
So with that, we're going to turn it over to our moderator for the day, Mary Huss.
Well, thank you, Walter and Reginald. That was really a long bio. I'm going to edit that down. But welcome to our panelists, our distinguished panelists, and to all of you. You know, this is National Small Business Week, so I think that's fitting. Also very important election day. Today, our distinguished panelists are going to give their views on how small business will recover from the pandemic, really what the future holds for small businesses here in the Bay Area, as we're hopefully beginning to turn the corner on the pandemic, and really what in their eyes does the new normal look like? And at the federal, state, and local level, what steps are we taking to build back an even stronger small business ecosystem with the infrastructure and resources we need for these engines of our economy to really thrive as a diverse small business community? And, you know, I think there were so many issues before COVID. The disparities were there. The inequity was there. The rising business costs that made it tough for kind of razor thin margins of small business anyway. The cost of housing and just the affordability of doing business here were already challenges, but the pandemic, you know, as they say, laid bare, especially the inequities in some of the underserved and underutilized communities. So some of those cracks in our system have been exposed, and I view it as, hopefully you all do too, as actually opportunity that's been exposed as well. If we have that, so we have the panel that can really talk about that. And I'll just say, Governor Newsom said last night that California's strength is its diversity. And, you know, the more we can build back better by focusing on equity and inclusivity in our small business opportunities, I think that even strengthens our state all the more. So let's hear our panel's views on what solutions and resources are available to small business and here in California as we do recover. So welcome all of you. And I think Khanna may not quite yet be on with us, but I'll be alerted when he is. So I'm going to open with kind of a broad question, and I'll let you each, Senator Cortese and Tara, answer it. And just what do you think are the key learnings from COVID? And from that, how are you defining the new normal as it relates to small business? So Senator Cortese, I'll start with you, and welcome.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you everyone from the consortium, all the organizers of the event today. This is very good to be doing, and very timely. And we're almost exactly 18 months from the shelter-in-place orders. And, you know, it's all been a blur for a lot of people. I heard somebody yesterday talking about how when it first started in the spring, you know, it wasn't this spring, it was of this year, it was the spring of the year before. And so a lot has happened, a lot of learning has happened, but really a lot of effort has happened, particularly from the small business community. Not to exclude the driving business sector, you know, large corporations, but we know that even in a place like Silicon Valley, 60% of the employment still comes from what we would define as small business. And I was on the front lines of that, so to speak, politically, because I was a Santa Clara County supervisor until the November elections of 2020. So I've been a state senator for this year's, you know, COVID response, COVID relief, and so forth. But I will tell you, the first year, you know, going back to the spring before this last spring, I was in a position on the Board of Supervisors in a county that was viewed as a hot spot in the state and in the country, a county which really led the shelter-in-place effort, and, you know, side by side ultimately with the state, started to put protocols in place for what people could do and what people couldn't do in the name of public health and public safety, really. We knew all the experts that we were listening to at the time, you know, predicted pretty accurately what ultimately and tragically ended up happening, that a lot of people would die, that we needed to somehow, you remember that term, flatten the curve. In other words, our systems were not built to deal with the kind of volume that we were going to see in terms of the need for response. And so in every way, not just hospital rooms, but in every way, I mean, you know, I'm sure someone will bring up more about EDD later, but in every way, our systems are really not built to deal with a pandemic and the kind of volume you see when you see a pandemic coming through and wreaking the kind of havoc it does. But I credit and this is, I hope this is a learning others have, maybe shared, that the small business sector immediately started coming to me as a county supervisor, including people on this Zoom call, on this webinar, saying, we can't be shut down. We need to be able to open up. What do we need to do? We want to work hard. We've been working hard. We've got our, life savings invested. We have our shareholders invested in our businesses. We know that we can be smart and we can get through this together, and we don't have to be completely shut down. So help us. And really hand in hand, up and down the state, businesses themselves came forward with, the kind of protocols, and very unique. I mean, a dentist's office is not the same as a manufacturing plant, which is not the same as a construction site, which is not, there's some common denominators, but those common denominators were built on and then really blossomed into what we eventually came to know as, sort of a web of different responses that allowed many, many businesses to be open. Still tragic, the ones that were viewed as so unsafe or so unable to put protocols together to actually get open, and some of those folks didn't survive. But when you look at the fact that we have a $75+ billion surplus in the state right now in terms of tax revenue, when I got to the Senate, I said, where the heck did that come from? And the legislative analyst told me it came from income taxes. And that's very telling. It tells you that those businesses that worked hard, including minority businesses, scratched and clawed, pleaded and begged, worked to get protocols in place and to operate their businesses safely, not only succeeded to some degree, but actually kept their revenue up and the income taxes of others around them up to the point where this state did not take an economic nosedive like we thought it was going to do, which could have been as much as a $50 or $60 billion deficit. Had that happened, it would have taken the whole country down. So, that's sort of a retrospective on where we are. And then I know you want to talk about what's available now to continue to help, businesses as we go forward. But I'll pause there. And I know Tara is way more of an expert than I am on, on what the state has been doing specifically in this space. Thank you.
Yeah, and Tara, I actually neglected to have Carol put up some slides. I'll just add some context to what you're going to say of what the actual closures of small business looked like. So suffice it to say, it's not like a good picture. There were several that were temporarily shuttered, but some we've lost. So I'll let you, first of all, Tara, congratulations on your recent appointment, and tell us a little bit more about what that's going to mean in terms of resources. But so we'll have you answer that first question, what you think we've learned from COVID, and maybe get a little bit into how your role can address some of the things we've learned. So welcome, Tara Gray.
Thank you. And please call me Tara.
Tara, so sorry.
No worries, no worries. I answer to both, and occasionally I remember what my mom named me. I
should have asked.
I think to Senator Cortese's point, we learned a lot about the contribution of small businesses to our economy. I think for a very long time, folks have paid lip service to small business. And I think the rubber really met the road in the pandemic. And we really learned two things. And I think got a silver lining or two. I think, first of all, as Senator Cortese so eloquently put it, we learned exactly how much our small businesses are contributing to our economy and how much that income tax provides for within our state. Huge investment, if you will, by small businesses in the continued success of the state. And then secondly, I think that we learned how significant the resources for small businesses are. And when I talk about the resources, I mean the programs that the state runs that provides information, access to technical assistance, loan funds. There are many significant programs that provide an on-ramp for our small businesses to get the resources and the help that they need. And as a small business practitioner for many, many, many years, I've worked with 2 Northern California SBDCs as a counselor. I've run a small business of my own for almost 20 years. I have run a small business association and a foundation that provides educational services to small businesses. And I would say the silver lining in the pandemic is that technical assistance providers are no longer at the kiddie table. We have been invited to sit at the adult table. The resources, the business acumen, the depth of knowledge and expertise in very specific subject matters has finally been recognized, and the importance recognized. And so for me, that is part and parcel of what we've learned, and really kind of a silver lining in the terrible pandemics of 2020.
Yes, and I know there is an enormous amount of money that the governor has designated. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about exactly how much there is, and how does a small business access this?
Yes, so I'm so glad you asked. The governor, with the help of the legislature, because that is a dance, they did it really, really well this year for our small businesses. When I think about working toward an equitable economic recovery, I really am, can I say, proud to be a part of a historic budget for small business. The governor and the legislature have laid out for us several programs, and starting with recognizing that the investment level in the Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant Program was not sufficient. They agreed to add another $1.5 billion in funds to the Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant Program. And that investment is providing for...
Hello?
Barney's Affordable Plumbing.
Yes, hi, someone else?
I think we need someone to mute.
That investment provides for 3 new rounds, and we are actually open in all 3 rounds right now. So we just continue to make history. Round 7 opened August 3rd, and it goes through Thursday of this week, September 16th. And the purpose of that round, that is a waitlisted closed round. And the purpose of that round is really to award grants to those that have applied since the beginning of the grant program. So really an effort to clear those that are waitlisted, and, you know, some who've applied as far back as December when the program opened. And so, you know, we had guidance that really suggested strongly that a closed round would be a very good way to start off this new investment. Then we opened on Friday, August 27th, we opened round 8, which was for nonprofit and cultural institutions. And there is $16 million that remain in that pool of funding for nonprofits and cultural institutions. That round was set to close last week. We have kept that round open, and it will remain open through Wednesday, September 30th, so that all nonprofit cultural institutions that had not yet had an opportunity to apply could apply. So hear me, folks. $16 million available, and that program is undersubscribed. So we have not yet come close to spending all of that money. And then round 9, which just opened Thursday, September 9th, and will also be open through Thursday, September 30th, is for new applicants and waitlisted applicants from certain previous rounds. So in this final round, we are hoping to pick up anyone that has not applied. They will have an opportunity to submit a new application. And then, of course, those that are already in the system and have been waitlisted will also be selected in what we think might be the last round, round 9.
Wow, that's significant. Senator Cortese, that is quite significant coming out of the state. And I'm curious your views on, a lot of small businesses really, they don't have sort of the infrastructure to even kind of hunt down their financial support that is needed. Is there anything that might be being provided to lenders to help provide some kind of training and resources to help the small businesses? Or any other resources you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, well, in a big county like we're in, in Silicon Valley County of Santa Clara, and this would be the same in San Francisco and other large population counties, a lot of that kind of service is essentially pushed down to the counties for administrative purposes, not the grant program specifically that Tara was talking about, but for example, landlord tenant assistance, that's also undersubscribed. There was $2.6 billion, as I recall, available to us, and it's still, largely still there. But folks who are struggling to pay their own rent because their business was temporarily shuttered or slowed down, or landlords who are also small business folks, right? Even if you just have a duplex or something like that, I forget where the cutoff is. But if you have multiple units and your tenants are telling you, in an email or in writing that they were COVID impacted because they lost their job or they were ill or their family members were ill or whatever the situation was, you qualify as a landlord for, depending on when you took advantage of that program, 80 to 100% of your of the rent due to you. And a lot of that gets confused a little bit in the messaging. I appreciate the question, Mary, because, we pushed hard at the legislative level for, to encourage implementation basics, like hotlines, like, web information. And I will tell you, on the websites, you can get that information. You can get it by calling any Senate office or state assembly office. With some of these programs, you can get it by calling your county supervisor's office, or go to those websites, to the COVID-19 relief portion of those websites, and you will get that information. It has been a struggle, I think. I really do think it's been a struggle to get this information out. And there's some history of that with the small business community. I don't know why that is. It predates probably many of us here on this call, but it certainly has been a challenge over the years, even in a well-resourced county like Santa Clara County, oftentimes to get the word out as to what's available. And I think we need to keep working on that. We're not out of the woods yet. And I think most of these programs where we're getting federal dollars come with a formula that says you can use up to 10% of the dollars for outreach and that exactly what you're asking about, Mary. So we need to take advantage of it. We need to do it. And we need to assume that most people out there have no idea where their first call should go, where they should email someone, as we say, which buttons to press.
So you have to one block, watch the close, go through the field.
And this is why programs like today's are very important for that educational purpose. So thank you. I'm going to actually move and welcome our Congressman, Khanna. Thank you.
Here. Looks like he's about ready to get out of the car.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Oh, I see. Oh, we're having a walking tour. So welcome. Well,
thank you.
We've had a pretty good view, I think, of there's so many great resources for, small businesses as they recover from the pandemic, and, really looking at kind of what the new normal is going to look like, and we hope, and some of those resources so that we can build back an even more diverse and equitable small business community here, particularly in California and the Bay Area. So interested in hearing from you any information that you might have on new or future legislation being worked on at the federal level that is really, really going to address the small business needs, because we've got a lot of closures, we've lost a lot of them. And so.
Well, Mary, I really appreciate it. And I want to thank Keisha and Asia on my team for helping work on this. Initially when the CARES Act was passed, it was not inclusive enough. We saw that a lot of the people had prior relationships with the banks. A lot of small businesses were excluded, particularly African-American, Latino small businesses were excluded. And so we've tried to work to fix that. I worked closely with Ayanna Pressley on a bill that she had, saying that a certain percentage of our funding needs to be to Black and Latino small businesses. And that was part of the package that we passed with President Biden. So there was an explicit focus on having more small businesses that are diverse have those funds, and a report to Congress required for that. Our office, working with Senator Cortese, who's done a fabulous job at the state level, are ready to assist people in every step in making sure that we get the appropriate resources with the SBA, or in Senator Cortese's case, the resources that exist at the state level. And so people should contact our offices, and we work closely together to make sure that we can cut through some of the red tape and bureaucracy and make sure that their applications are being considered because they weren't done. Now, more long-term, I think I support Ayanna Pressley wants to create a separate fund directed at Black and brown businesses permanently at the SBA. And I think that's an important idea, because those entrepreneurs have been so lacking in funding, certainly in Silicon Valley. And I support that type of creation that I think is ultimately needed to tackle some of the disparity, racial disparity in venture capital. Great,
great. I'm curious also just what, and our time is growing short now, just so I'll kind of ask anyone who wants to add any final comment or bit of advice you can, but I know that workforce is a big issue for small businesses, just finding workforce. And I would say also just training, in terms of, supporting small businesses, but also supporting their workforces. So what are some needs that you see being addressed in that arena? Because it's hard to find people, that hurts small businesses. Congressman Khanna, is there anything you would have to say about workforce training?
I think there are two issues here, and I appreciate it. First of all, I think it's not just a pipeline problem when it comes to diversity. I hear this from tech companies, and candidly, I think a lot of it is excuse making. There is a cultural problem in these companies. There is a recruitment problem. There is a retention problem. There are plenty of African-American engineers and computer scientists and lawyers and accountants. And one of the things I say is, well, why don't you have the diversity in your legal profession if you're saying it's a pipeline issue? Why don't you have it in the financial services profession? So we have to start with an honest view that there are issues of explicit and subtle racism and cultural exclusion that still impact a large part of the Valley and that are need to be addressed to be able to have an inclusive workforce. And it's not just that, oh, we need to go do a better job of recruiting. It's also retention. You know, in our office, for example, one of the things that we do is we do a workshop every 3 months on issues of sensitivity, of cultural exclusion, diversity. I've learned a lot from some of those. Others have learned. And I just think that we need to really work on the culture in these places of why is it that people leave? They get recruited and then they leave. So I spent so much time on the workforce issue because I think so much of it is a cultural issue. That said, of course, we want to be investing in HBCUs and Hispanic service institutions in places like San Jose State and geared towards a diverse population and building the credentials and the appropriate credentials and skills. But we definitely have to be very explicit that we do have an issue of race in the Valley, and we have to tackle that head on.
Great. I know Walter Wilson would, thank you, Congressman Khanna. Walter Wilson, you want to weigh in here?
Yeah. Good morning, Congressman. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Walter. Good seeing you.
Great to see you too. So, you know, one of the big concerns that we've seen with the small minority women-owned business, LGBTQ and others in this area is, you know, we're concerned, especially about this American Recovery Act, where we see the administration, you know, they talk about the commitment to the unions and, you know, many other aspects of the economy that should be addressed. But we just don't see that type of commitment coming from the administration about the small women, minority-owned businesses and the sort of commitment that's needed there to reassure us anyway that, you know what, they're thinking about us, because these small businesses, like Tara says, are the engine for this country. And, you know, we lost a third of many businesses during the pandemic. And so, you know, it's important for us that you can take that message back to the administration that, you know, we need to hear it. We need to see those type of press conferences making that sort of commitment to these groups of small businesses that are the engine for our country. And we're hoping we can get that commitment from you. Thank you.
Absolutely, Walter. And Keisha and Asia and others have been keeping me posted. They put this point at weekly reports, and I know that they've been meeting with you, but I will convey this directly to Ron Klain, who's the chief of staff to the president. I'm back home on Thursday, but I'm coming via New York because there's a conference here that Ron's at. So I'll get to see him today, and I will make that point to him directly.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We look forward to working with you.
I also want to interrupt. I know we have time for Tara to share some words, but I don't know if you're going to incorporate those thoughts that we shared with one another earlier, but I know that many people on this call and maybe beyond this room who are minority-owned businesses are very discouraged and cynical about the actual possibility of getting money. Like, it takes time and effort, and does it really work? And so I'm hoping, whether you speak now about it or in your comments later, I'm hoping all of you can address that kind of question, because it's a huge issue that many small businesses don't even want to try.
Well, I would love to jump in here. First of all, I want to thank you, Congressman Khanna, for your remarks, your very candid remarks about race and about culture inside of organizations, because it is true that is an impediment to workforce development. Companies go through great lengths to recruit people of color. And if they would put as much energy into changing internal culture as they do recruiting, we could see the needle really move for organizations in terms of long-term sustainable diversity. So I thank you tremendously for that. I also want to get a plug in. Thank you for sharing the information about Representative Presley's desire for a Black and Brown fund. I think that one of the things I said earlier about the need for technical assistance, capital is great, But a small business that gets capital and doesn't get the support to deploy that capital properly and to manage that capital doesn't do as well. So as you all work on that, it would be great to programming accompany any funds that would be set aside in the fund. And I would love to follow up and share information regarding that.
Tara, thank you. That's very, very helpful. I appreciate your obviously very knowledgeable about Ayanna's efforts, Presley's efforts, and your suggestion that it not just be money, but it has to be assistance in the technical assistance and the and all of the skills and the services needed to succeed, which are often missing, is a great one. And maybe if you can help us with Keisha, with Asia, with others, provide that feedback, I can work to make sure it's incorporated in Ayanna's bill.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely.
Mary, I wanted to emphasize two things really quickly. One, taking to heart what Carol was talking about, and I think what you've been pushing for on this webinar is I want to take some responsibility for working with the state administration, which obviously is broken up into agencies and departments, to try to create some kind of a one-stop list. I mean, we need to get this down to, sort of a 1 or 2 pager that we can share with the business community and get it out and say, if this is your issue, this is your call. If this is your issue, this is your call. Because to have, undersubscribed programs in the billions of dollars is not helping anyone. And the second thing I want to say, which we haven't really talked about at all of these program dollars that are going out, there's a lot of people making money in that stream of commerce that are not the recipients. They're the people who are, placing the money or helping to place the money. And unfortunately, when you talk about culture, there's a history of the same old folks, and I know Tara has worked in procurement, who are constantly the bidders. And it's really what the Minority Business Consortium that I know, Reginald and Walter Wilson, and came to me years ago and said, that's got to stop. We've got to diversify the actual conduits that are getting dollars out so that they're getting to the communities that they aren't getting to now. And I just want to say, if you're the kind of a business that's into consulting, or you have the mechanisms for getting dollars out, you're hearing about undersubscribed programs. Obviously, there's a need for help, whether it's at the county level or the state level. I don't know that much about state procurement yet, but you need to get in line, to get on those bid lists, and to say, we don't want that money just going to that 25-year-old nonprofit down the street. We're in this space too, and we want some of those dollars to come through us because we know how to use it.
Well, very, very great. I love that the three of you, there's things that are going to come out of this conversation. And
I just wanted to say, Senator Cortese, that's an outstanding idea. And my diligent team is telling me that we actually sponsored the One Stop Act that would do some of that. But we'll look forward to working with you to do it at a local level, because I agree with you that that's something we should get done.
Thank you.
And Senator Cortese, I would love to chime in on that. My office, we just launched last week our new small business portal at calosba.ca.gov. I would love to work with you on creating additional resources and one-stop, as Representative Khanna characterizes it. But I would love to do something like that with you.
Yeah, thank you.
May I make a comment here? I think Congressman Khanna and Senator Cortese and even you, Tara, with the governor's ear, we are on the cusp of doing what happened in the 40s and early 50s of rebuilding infrastructure, rebuilding our economy across this country. And this time, I hope we can do that with all the diversity that we desire in that process. Because if we don't do something affirmative, if we don't do something deliberate, the same old guys will get all the money and the overall economy will suffer, because if the few people end up with all the money comes out of circulation to all these small businesses. We have an opportunity to build that health, the health of our economy into the health of our infrastructure. And if you could do that, if you could press for those things and look at all the nuances, and Senator Cortese, I really appreciate the statement about finding the different businesses that know how to filter into the community. Because if we use the same agencies that's been doing it for the last 30, 40 years, we'll end up with the same thing. A few people have stuff and everybody else is sitting on the outside. So I hope you can take that into your process as you go forward. And you are our champions, and we are looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
What I love is the relationship that we get to see working out right here as people of like-minded spirit, you know, come together and say, okay, let's do this. And we've been working with all three of you and Mary as well to help make that happen. There's a couple of questions that I don't know, Mary, if you want to do that. I know Tara says this is an important conversation. Let's keep going. So we don't have too much more time on this, but one was about making sure that people actually get paid, that sometimes getting the work is easy, getting paid is the problem. And we work on that with Valley Transportation Authority, making sure that there's compliance and monitoring. And that's an investment that VTA has made so that for the BART Silicon Valley project, you know, we make sure that people are actually paid and not just checked off as, oh, here's a diverse company that I hired, but I never actually paid them. So do any of you want to make a comment on that?
I would say that the problem is real, and it is difficult to be a subcontractor for a large prime who may be able to float, you know, that 60, 90, 120 days, and the payment to the subcontractor is contingent upon them being paid. I think that it's time for large primes who have access to credit lines and have the ability to float that, stop requiring their subcontractors to wait the same length of time. It breaks a small business to do that. Cash is king. Cash flow statements are real. If you don't have one for your business, you need one. And it is time for the small business community and lawmakers to press back on those kinds of issues. Very small things like that can make a huge difference for small businesses.
Well, Tara, let me speak to this for Dave and Ro. What VTA is doing here, they are paying net 15 on all of these invoices for these small businesses and for these subcontractors. Now, it is amazing that John White, when he was procurement officer here, he said it was cheaper for VTA it was so cheap for VTA to do that, to go to their financiers and say, we want to pay in 15 days. And what that does is that set these small businesses up so they don't have to go and give the bank part of their profit by being able to finance a project as large as this. And most of these, and so they are demanding that each one of the prime contractors also pays a net 15 to the subs on this project. And because we found out, Minority Business Consortium found out that it was not a heavy financial burden. So it seems like the only reason it exists is just to keep the small businesses out. So you guys are in a position to, in this side of this legislation, to say that when we do these kind of projects, when the government is funding these kind of projects, things like net 15 can be implemented to help small businesses. And the last thing, they did an owner insured program. they insuring the whole project so that the small businesses can't be burdened with the kind of insurance on a $1 billion project. And what that did, he said it was cheaper for the agency to do buy all the insurance, because everybody was going to mark it up and charge it to them anyway. So we're saying that there are some very basic things that you can do with the money that's being spent out of Sacramento and the money that's being spent out of DC to help these small businesses that nobody has ever really put a lot of energy into. And that's why we appreciate the work that VTA is doing here. They are actually leading the country, I think, in coming up with simple solutions that's not economically onerous. And I think that when you guys take those kind of things into consideration, we can have some conversations offline if you want to, but there are things that could really help these small businesses. And as legislators, I want to put that in your lap, okay?
Well, thank you. That alone could be transformative. So, so many great solutions. I know that and we have Tara Lynn, you're going to be giving a keynote, so we're going to get more information. But do you know?
She gave up her time for this conversation,
okay,
which is so great. And I think the thing that as we work with VTA, we're trying to be a model for many other corporations. So these monthly Bay Area diversity forums, it's the second Thursday of every month, I'll put information in, has corporations and public agencies, providing information to all of you about upcoming opportunities. But we're seeing that we have leverage to be a role model for corporations, to say, hey, if VTA can do this, you can do it. So it's an exciting time. And I think exactly what you started off with, Mary, about what are the challenges and the opportunities is everything has been exposed. Now we got to fix it.
Hi, I'm sorry, excuse me, you guys. This is Walter Wilson again, Minority Business Consortium. I'm going to let Congressman Khanna say a few words because he has another appointment and is going to have to leave us. So excuse me for that.
And so does Tara. So,
and so do I.
Final words.
Yeah.
You're muted, Congressman. Congressman.
I want to thank Walter. I want to thank you, Walter, for your leadership. Thank you, Senator Cortese, for always being a partner on these racial equity issues and more broadly, equity and small business issues. Tara, thank you for your insights. We're excited to work with you. And Mary, thank you. I see so many folks, Reginald and Dennis King and others who've been great resources to our office. And Keisha and Asia will continue to work with everyone. I'll just say we've got a long way to go still. I mean, in the Valley, we have the engine of wealth generation for the world, $11 trillion of market cap in our area. That's probably the most wealth ever produced in human history. And yet we, right here at home, have exclusions. Not enough women, not enough of the Black community, not enough of the Latino community who's participating in that wealth generation. It's not complex. Everyone knows the issues. We just have to be much more intentional and deliberate in solving this. And I'm admire this group for convening this, and I'm committed to working on this issue.
Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So final words from Senator Cortese, and we'll let Tara Lynn be our final words. So,
thank you so much. Again, thanks to the organizers, the Minority Business Consortium, which is really broken through so many barriers, despite the fact that, as Congressman just said, there's so much more to do. And I know they know it. I know all of you know it. It was monumental to have Congressman Khanna on this webinar and to hear from him. He's very good at that, making himself available, but also we learned a little bit from him about what's going on. And I know Tara picked up on that right away. And I think we probably want to get some kind of companion legislation going in the state, in terms of if necessary, unless it can be done administratively, to try to set up the same kind of minority business earmark that I think we can do that in the state. I don't think it violates any principles or any laws, and it certainly meets justice and equity, in my opinion. So thank you. I too have to get going. I appreciate the opportunity. Mary did a great job moderating this. I notice people are engaged in the chat room, and that's always a good sign. And Carol, thank you for all your work getting us together.
Thank you, Senator. Good to see you. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. I heard you loud and clear. So I think I'm going to end on a slightly different note. This was a fabulous discussion this morning. It's so honored to be a part of it. I want to speak to the small businesses directly that are on this line. If you were in attendance today and you have not yet applied for the myriad of aid that is out there, shame on you. Some folks are afraid to apply because they think that they don't have the information necessary. Some folks don't want the government to have their information, whatever. There are 9 million reasons that folks can come up with for not applying. But I want to say the grants are real. They're going to real small business owners. I spoke in person at an event last week. 3 separate people came up to me to thank me for the program and to share with me how their businesses were affected. And I will say one gentleman brought me to tears as he was in tears, sharing the impact that the money he received from the Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant Program, what it enabled him to do in his business and to take care of the people that he loves. So I just want to say, stay tuned, check out calosba.ca.gov. We will be announcing programs. We have 4 new programs that we will be launching this year, and all of them have small business money in it. Do not let this historical time pass you by.
Tara, that's so great. I know you put the link, I think, in the chat, and I know there will be more information about this in the workshops. And, it just, are there actually people that can help navigate, like navigators, someone, because I know sometimes no matter how simple you make it, they can be a little difficult to understand exactly what to do.
Absolutely. And we know that small businesses do their small business best, right? So everything else is a chore. And so applying for the aid, you can go to careliefgrant.com. On that website, you can choose by language or by county a small business technical assistance provider that can assist you in completing the application. No matter what your question is, if it's simple, if you think it's complex, I urge you, go get the help. Senator Cortese said it, there is an ecosystem of folks that are providing services that are getting paid as a part of the process. You want to make sure that you get what is rightfully due you, and that is a fair opportunity to apply. So check out careliefgrant.com and pick a provider. And even they're listed by county, they're listed by language, they're listed by name. Even if you're in a particular county and you want to pick somebody else, feel free to pick anybody on that list. Get the help.
So I'm sorry. So this is Walter Wilson. So I thank you, Tara. You're absolutely right. Listen, these opportunities are here. She's telling you they're here. This lady works for the state. She's got $16 million. Where do I sign up? That's what I'm saying.
That's for the nonprofit program.
But here today, you guys, here today, right after Tara is finished, Carol's going to tell everyone here about how they can sign up for these programs right here, right now, today. There's plenty of people here that's going to walk you through every one of these grant programs, loan programs, and even other considerations such as legal and other things. So thank you all. We appreciate it. And stay tuned, because these opportunities are here, right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tara, thank you for giving up we got so much from you. You don't even have to do the keynote, but hopefully in our future, we'll have even more. And I know you have a book coming out. Is that right?
I do indeed.
Wow.
You want to just say what the name of the book is?
I can't.
Oh, you can't?
Because I'm at work.
Oh, Google.
Oh.
Google. There is something called Google. All right. I didn't know you couldn't, or I wouldn't have brought it up. Okay. Anyway, applause to you and our entire panel. It was really, really informative. Thank you so much for all of your time with us today. And thanks to our entire panel. Now I'll turn it back over.
Thank you, Mary. You are an amazing, smooth facilitator, and was a great conversation. So V, would you please put up the slide about what's coming up next? Not that one.
The previous
the one with the workshops.
There we go.
No, there you go. All right. So there are 4 workshops. When you applied, registered, you said some things you were interested in. Based on your comments, we pre-assigned you in this first round to one of these 4 workshops. Again, if you go in the workshop and it's really not what you want, you can ask to leave and then wait until the next session and you can get in a workshop at your own choosing, just to make sure. I mean, you can stay in it. It might not be exactly what you want, but you might learn something. And so, but make sure you give yourself, don't come back late for the next session. So we are going to have.
I'm sorry, Carol.
Yes.
How long is each workshop?
Yes, I'm just about ready to say that. So each workshop is 30 minutes. It should be about 20-minute presentation, 10 minutes in information. So I'm going to go over what each workshop is about. So Chris Horton, who's the director of the Inclusivity Project and works on SBDC grants and loans, he is going to walk you through the kind of information that Tara was referring to, the California relief grants. There's also some loan possibilities. He's going to be in breakout room number 1. And if you do not get in his class, in his session first, you can choose it later. The workshop breakout room number 2 is about getting loan ready. So a lot of times when there's loans, there are federal loans or there's California loans, there's a lot of information that you need to gather in order to get ready to do a loan. Khanna is director of the Working Capital Direct and Community Relations with Action Opportunity Fund. She does this all the time. She's amazing. She's going to help you understand how to access capital, how to get ready to do a loan if you've never done it before, what kind of documents you need. So she's going to drill down on that information, which will help you with some of the other breakout room topics. The third one, or breakout room number 3, is about SBA. This is emergency disaster loans. I believe that's what the EIDL stands for. There's an I in there and I'm blanking on what it means. But SBA provides low interest loans to small businesses. There's also ways to get certified through SBA and more. And Carlos Gutierrez is the Deputy District Director of the 14 Northern California counties. So he's going to give kind of a big overview. Chandra, a good friend, she's an author, she's a small business owner, she leads Powerhouse Women. She actually went through the process. So not only do you get the big picture, you also get a personal story about, well, what it was like, what she needed to do, how challenging it was or how easy it was. So in the breakout room number 3, that's what you'll learn about in terms of federal low interest loans. Breakout room number 4, we combined 2 brilliant women. One is Heidi Kim. She's the associate director of the legal program of Start Small, Think Big. And they provide free legal services to small disadvantaged businesses. So she's going to help you understand, if you really want to be successful at what you do as a business, these are some things you need to consider in terms of the legal dimensions of it and forms and all that stuff. I'm looking forward to that one. And then Nicole Prevost is a senior business consultant with Chase Bank, and she's heading up a minority entrepreneurial initiative program, which provides free business coaching. 3 months, I believe, is the total figure for it. And, you have to be an established business in order to get that. Many of you asked about startup money. I would say maybe accessing capital, and workshop number 2 might be the one you want to go to, because Shauna will cover some of that. Each one of these will have some folks who are going to help them field your questions. Griselda is with Shauna. Robert is with Heidi and Nicole, and Chris has his assistant with him. So as I say, you've been pre-assigned there. There's a few people that read